silanganan, alam ng puso sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bukhaw, may dalagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidinig. Lupa ng araw ng walhati kong sinta, huwag langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga atis na pumatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Or switch them off. Go with the trend or use a classic. Move ahead or take a step back. Use products that may affect the environment or help rebuild it. Decisions like these all have consequences. And we have the power to decide. We at UniOil know the value of our choices. Even in the tiniest possible way. Making the world a safer place to play in. A greener place to drive in. And a better place to live in. By providing better and cleaner fuels and utilizing renewable and sustainable energy. See? When we do small and meaningful acts for the planet, We help in rebuilding it. We help in keeping it. The road to the future might be uncertain, but we think we got a good head start. So come take this journey with Unioil. Together, we can begin by doing our care, doing our share. It may be a little, but it's a start. Unioil, doing our part.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Going Green, great for business and community. This event is hosted by the Manila Times. We are broadcasting live at the Manila Times and the Manila Times TV Facebook page. To give his opening remarks, I would like to call on the President and CEO of the Manila Times, Mr. Dante Clink Ang II.
Thank you, Ray. Secretary Manuel de Guzman, Vice Chairman and Executive Director of the Climate Change Commission, Mr. Edmund Araga, President of the Electric Vehicles Association of the Philippines, Mr. Noel Soriano, Unioil Petroleum Philippines Incorporated Vice President, Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Atalan Corporation Vice President. Good morning, and on behalf of the Manila Times, welcome to today's forum. The Times organizes these events to help focus the so-called national spotlight on issues that truly merit national discourse and attention. Our focus today is on the future, on how we can ensure that the country's economic recovery from the pandemic is not only robust, but also sustainable and environmentally responsible. That is what Going Green is all about, making sure that the progress we hope to realize will not sacrifice our well-being and that of future generations. After months of struggling with the coronavirus pandemic, we can sense that better times are ahead. In the Philippines, the number of cases are on a decline and mortality figures remain low. Some effective therapeutics have already been identified, even as scientists continue to learn more about COVID-19. And just the other day, we heard about a promising update about a vaccine being developed by Pfizer, that its product appears to be 90% effective and could be rolled out soon. Still, we should remain cautious. Pfizer's product is still in development, and as we have reported about the history of vaccines, making them entails a process that is complicated. Many vaccine candidates fail, even in the latter stages of their development. And even if Pfizer is successful, we still have to account for manufacturing time and distribution before they are offered here. I heard today on CNN Dr. Anthony Fauci of the U.S. Center for Disease Control say that it might not be until April 2021 when most Americans are vaccinated. We can only assume that Filipinos will be next in line after them. We agree, though, that the news bolsters the cautious optimism of economic managers of the Philippines. In earlier forums of the Manila Times, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez said that the Philippines should see a robust rebound in 2021. He corroborated the earlier outlook given to the Times by NEDA and Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And even without a vaccine, the assumption seems to be that the economy has to reopen even if COVID-19 persists. And so there appears to be agreement about the trajectory of our economy. But as we hope to highlight today, that there ought to be more attention to the quality of our recovery. From an environmental perspective, going back to old norms may not seem attractive or even viable. Like on the economic front, we hope to see a new normal in terms of our development policies and in the quality of our national progress. We believe it is timely to discuss these matters today. For instance, the Balik Provincia program of the government is largely driven by the need to decongest urban centers. But we should also have a green hue so that the execution of that program does not transfer the environmental problems from cities to provinces. Also, as policymakers weigh the environmental considerations of our energy mix, we hope that the topics today will be also heard. Recently, China announced that it plans to be carbon neutral by 2060, and the US hopes to do the same by 2050. As you know, the Philippines has a relatively small carbon footprint, and that should be preserved even as the country looks to turn the corner in a post-pandemic world and resume the pursuit of its development targets. How the country can do that may be the topic of our speakers today. So let me conclude so that we can get on with the program. But before I do so, let me express our appreciation to those who helped make this event possible. Thank you to our sponsors, Unioil Petroleum Philippines Incorporated, Platinum Group Metals Corporation, Global Ferronickel Holdings Incorporation, and Hungry Workhorse. Thank you also to our partner organizations, Management Association of the Philippines, the Financial Executives of the Philippines, the British Chamber of Commerce, Philippines. Last but not least, thank you to our media partner, the Manila Times TV. Once again, thank you to you all, our participants watching this event on the Manila Times website and its social media live stream, and may you all have a productive day.
Thank you, Clint, President and CEO of the Manila Times. We have an interesting lineup of speakers, so we expect some vigorous discussion here. So our keynote speaker, he is an international expert on disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation, a public health specialist and an economist. He has more than 30 years of work experience in public service and civil society since 1986, and more than 20 years of professional work experience in the fields of disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and humanitarian action at national and international levels since 1993. He has worked in the Philippine government under 4 administrations from 1986 to 2001. He was director of the Department of National Defense and Deputy Administrator of the Office of the Civil Defense National Disaster Coordinating Council from 1998 to 2001. He was advisor on contingency planning at the National Security Council from 1997 to 1998, and he was head executive assistant and national program manager at the Department of Health from 1986 to 1997. Outside government, he had advised national and local government agencies and international regional organizations, including the United Nations for Sustainable Development. As an international advisor on DRRCCA, he had worked in Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, China, Cuba, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, among other countries. He was appointed to the Philippine Climate Change Commission in September 2015 and led the negotiations by the Philippines on the Paris Climate Change Agreement at COP21 in December 2015. Let us all welcome Honorable Emmanuel Manny de Guzman, Secretary, Vice Chairperson, and Executive Director of the Climate Change Commission.
Ladies and gentlemen, The current COVID-19 pandemic and the prevailing climate emergency are both rooted in the world's current economic model of pursuing infinite growth at the expense of our planet. The paradox is that the pandemic has inspired radical action both from the public and private sector, while climate change so far has not. Actions to address climate change are happening at different speeds and scales around the world. Arguably, current climate change measures have taken little heed of the enormity and progression of the risks and vulnerabilities we are experiencing. Just a few days ago, Super Typhoon Rolly, the world's strongest storm this year, wreaked havoc in the country while we are still reeling from the impacts of Typhoon Quinta. The onslaught of these two powerful typhoons left numerous casualties and millions in destroyed crops and infrastructure in the Bicol region. However, as we speak, recovery and reconstruction efforts in the affected areas are put on hold as residents brace for another tropical storm that is projected to further intensify into a typhoon before making landfall. This is another shuddering warning. There is no more time to waste. We must immediately pursue the integration and coherence of private and public sector strategies for climate change adaptation and mitigation, disaster risk reduction, and sustainable development. Fortunately today, concerned with the vicious cycle of losses and grim prospects of climate change impacts and the Herculean tasks to arrest them, we are all gathered here to renew our commitment to work together toward addressing the greatest challenge of our generation. The government has been addressing the problem of climate change since its recognition by the world community in 1992, when the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was established. We have actively participated and significantly contributed to the international climate negotiations under the UNFCCC process. In 2015, we led the Climate Vulnerable Forum, an international partnership of countries highly vulnerable to a warming planet, in successfully advocating for the inclusion of the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal in the final text of the Paris Agreement. 1.5 degrees Celsius is the global warming threshold for climate-vulnerable developing countries to survive and thrive. According to the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, anything beyond 1.5, even half a degree of warming, will significantly worsen the risks of flooding, extreme heat, drought, and poverty in our local communities. It conveys that the world community does not have the luxury of time for to rein global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. Global net carbon dioxide emissions should be cut by 45% by 2030 from 2010 levels toward achieving a decarbonized global economy with net zero carbon emissions by mid-century. Reducing this amount of carbon emissions entails the exponential scaling up of renewable energy systems, energy efficiency, electrification of transport systems, and improvements of industrial and building efficiency on a global scale. Here at home, we have laid the policy landscape and enacted national laws to address the prevalence of climate risks to survive and thrive in the era of climate change. Despite our country's insignificant emissions of less than half of 1% of global emissions, the burden of prevalent poverty and the recurring economic losses from climate change impacts, we are resolved to pursue a low-carbon development pathway. We have our Clean Air Act, reducing black carbon, our Renewable Energy Act for promoting clean, sustainable energy, our Climate Change Act, for strengthening climate governance, our People's Survival Fund Act for financing local adaptation, our National Protected Areas Act for ensuring ecosystems integrity, and our Green Jobs Act for promoting the creation of green jobs and fostering a just transition toward a green economy. We increased our excise tax on coal importation. We enacted our Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act for the effective and judicious use of energy. Last year, the Securities and Exchange Commission issued the Sustainability Reporting Guidelines for publicly listed companies. This will help us in the Commission measure and monitor the contributions of the private sector to the implementation of our nationally determined contributions. This year, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas approved the Sustainable Finance Policy Framework requiring the integration of sustainability principles, including those covering environmental and social risk areas in the corporate governance and risk management frameworks. This will truly be a game changer in mobilizing finance towards climate investments in the country. Just last month, the Department of Energy announced that it will issue a moratorium on new coal-fired power plants. This policy is a welcome development that will advance rapidly the deployment of renewable energy and reducing the country's dependence on coal for energy generation in accordance with the President's pronouncement in his 2019 State of the Nation address. This policy will be articulated in the country's first nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement, which is now being developed and finalized through a whole of government and society approach. The NDC is the articulation of the country's investment strategy in pursuit of climate resilient and low carbon development. It defines also which transformational measures are conditional or contingent on the climate finance support of developed countries. The sooner we submit our NDC, the sooner we can unlock new sources of climate finance that could meaningfully reduce power costs in the country and end our reliance on imported fossil fuels. These policies, frameworks, and regulations will not be successful without the support and cooperation of the private sector. We in government simply cannot do it alone. To this end, allow me to briefly enumerate possible areas of cooperation between the public and the private sector in the pursuit of sustainability and green development. First is on promoting risk-informed and science-based development planning. The latest science must inform all development plans, including investments. Let us find ways on how the private sector could help local government units in terms of undertaking risk assessments that could further inform local disaster risk reduction and management plans, local climate change action plans, comprehensive development plans, and comprehensive land use plans. Second is on mainstreaming climate change and disaster resilience in your investment and operational planning. As the global average temperature increases over the years, more and more extreme and intense weather and water-related hazards are occurring and turning into disasters. In line with this, we in government could extend technical and capacity building support to the private business sector's stakeholders to ensure that climate change adaptation and mitigation and disaster risk reduction are at the core of your business sustainability and continuity plans. Third is on promoting sustainable urban planning and development in view of the continuing trend of rapid urbanization, increasing urban population density, and unabated rural to urban migration. As climate change creates a vast marketplace for green buildings, clean energy, and sustainable cities, This is the best time for the business sector to step up and get ahead of the curve. From here on, the rule should be simple. Infrastructure projects that are not green and sustainable should not see the light of day. Fourth is on developing and promoting disaster risk financing tools. Disaster risk financing tools such as insurance could strengthen rapid response to and recovery from climate and disaster shocks, thus protecting individuals, businesses, and the government. These tools are more effective if we make it a part of a comprehensive risk management strategy. The insurance industry can support risk management expertise, risk capital, and innovative risk transfer solutions. Fifth is on social preparations for the low carbon transition and the exponential transformation of all sectors towards the green economy. To create more green jobs and advance sustainable consumption and production, let us converge our resources to promote climate change and sustainability education in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of collaborative work for the government and private business sector in ushering a paradigm shift toward low carbon and climate resilient development. In the past, we have been hindered by the mistaken assumption that climate actions are inevitably costly to those that pursue them. Such thinking only empowers those who stand to benefit from delay and inaction by propounding the notion that climate action conflicts with critical economic development and public welfare priorities. We now know that reality is very much different. What is good for the planet is good for the business. Years of technological and policy innovation have created a completely new playing field for investments. Far from slowing down the advance of growth, development, and social welfare, climate action can produce socially beneficial outcomes. Climate solutions are now often cheaper and provide greater economic returns than higher carbon alternatives. We may call them climate actions, but they are really just smart policies and sound investments with climate benefits as an added bonus. Because of this, more and more companies and institutions are responding to the global imperative and consumer demand to go green. They recognize that integrating sustainability and green practices into their operations is crucial in ensuring the longevity and profitability of their businesses. Expect this trend to continue in the many years to come across all sectors and industries, from infrastructure, food supply, supply chains, urban services, logistics, to the energy sector. This is a global transformation process that is already underway, and we cannot afford to be left behind. The private sector, as the engine of the country's economic growth, plays a critical role in this green energy revolution. I count on all of you to take climate ambition to new heights today and pave the way for more leadership and innovative climate actions. Thank you and mabuhay.
What is good for the planet is good for business. That resonates well to the viewers and audience right now. Thank you, Honorable Manny de Guzman, Secretary and Vice Chairperson and Executive Director of the Climate Change Commission. Our next speaker is the founding member of the Asean Federation of Electric and Hybrid Vehicles Association to ASEAN countries such as Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, by encouraging and inviting member countries to attend and participate in the first ASEAN Electric Vehicle and Hybrid Summit. It was held in 2017. He is also currently the president of the Electric Vehicles Association of the Philippines, or EVAP, the official organization of some 55 major players in the EV industry in the Philippines. As EVA president, he represented the EV industry in the Senate hearing on the act providing the national energy policy and regulatory framework for the use of electric vehicles and the establishment of electric charging stations. He is also advocating at both Congress and Senate for the passage of the electric vehicle and hybrid incentives bill that will grant fiscal incentives for both manufacturers and users of EVs and hybrids. Let's all welcome our next speaker, Mr. Edmund Araga, President of the Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines. Mr. Araga?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Well, first and foremost, I would like to say good morning to Sir Dante Ang and Honorable Secretary Manuel de Guzman and the rest of the speakers that joining me, Sir Noel Soriano and Sir Edgar Sabidong. Now, on behalf of Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines, we are grateful to be invited on this event as it is our privilege and an opportunity to promote our advocacy on using an environmental friendly vehicle. Now, could you run the slides, please? First and foremost, I would like to give you a brief background of our association. It started in 2008, wherein various players, spearheaded by Philippine Utility Vehicle Association, decided to band together and form this association. And our mission is to promote electric vehicles used throughout the entire archipelago. And with this, these suppliers on the automotive sector find a way to create an association that that we see the future, that the future of the automotive is into electric. Next slide, please. So, as mentioned by Sir Ray Lugto, our moderator and speaker, we were able to organize another set of federation. We call it Asean Federation of Electric and Hybrid Vehicle Association, which we established 2017 during our being as a host of the ASEAN event. And we were able to invite and entice Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. And then we were able to establish a memorandum of agreement that promoting electric vehicles and to collaborate on a regionalized market so that we would be able to pull through with the industry. That's how we started. Next slide, please. So what to expect? Why EVs in the Philippines and why the Philippine industry updates as needed, and the policy and regulation updates has to be summarized, and then the perspectives on local EVs and parts manufacturers, and on the perspective on the e-vehicle based transport operator, and on the perspectives of EV charging infrastructure operator, and bringing EVs forward. As mentioned by our Secretary Emmanuel de Guzman, what is needed is a joint collaboration between the government and the private sector. And the private sector, such as us, we were able to establish this and join hands with the government sectors in building this industry for the consumers and for our economies to scale it up to a higher level. Next slide, please. As mentioned, EV trend is going up. China dominates this aspect, wherein there were more Chinese manufacturers on dealing with EVs and such. followed by other countries. And with this, they were able to make a projection on how they can approach on this market, that in the next 5 to 10 years to come, EV industry worldwide will put a mark in the auto sector. So how the automotive supply chains will change, that is given, because this would give new job creations, this will give new innovations, and this would give new sustainability in promoting a more eco-friendly vehicle. Will it be a boon or a bane for us? It depends on how our actions now, from this moment and beyond. So as of the moment, we are looking at finding the incentives that would somehow elevate the industry as being enjoyed by other countries, wherein subsidies, incentives were being given to them, so as to be appreciated by the consumers, and so as to see the benefits of the industry. Next slide, please. When in terms of energy security, top five importation in our country today is importation of the crude. So millions of barrels are being imported yearly, and this has to be addressed. And part of it, major part of consumers of the oil importations is on the transport sector. Next slide, please. So why EVs in the Philippines? There are about 20 to 30% greenhouse gas emissions that being taken, and we are firm that with the usage of the EVs or electric vehicles will help address the issue on the greenhouse gas mitigation in promoting the plug-in hybrid and battery electric vehicles. Next slide, please. Why EVs in the Philippines? We started with promoting via approach on e-jeepneys and the e-tricycles, wherein we have to let the public know that what would be the benefits of using the EVs. We come up with a more systematic approach. We come up building the infrastructure. We come up with charging stations at place, so as they can recognize the systematic point of using the electric vehicles. In terms of health, during the pandemic situation, we see the beauty of the lockdowns, wherein air pollution was limited, and there were only a few vehicles that are being used on the roads, and EVs are one of those being used specifically for our frontliners, shuttling them from their place to their hospitals, and it addressed the in terms of health and noise pollution. Imagine there were no noise while using on the EVs. It addressed the air pollution because it doesn't emit any gas at all. Next slide, please. So the simplicity of an electric vehicle compared to an ICE or internal combustion engine is big. Like, for instance, there are only about 18 moving parts for the EVs compared to more than 2,000 moving parts of the ICEs. So it's really a game changer that on the supply side of things, we make it more simpler in using the electric vehicles. So what else do we have the advantage of in the Philippines? We have abundant nickel and cobalt reserves and supplies. And on this, we could be able to provide and produce batteries. The only thing that makes it more sensible enough is produce and not process it here and build batteries, address the cost of the unit. In addressing this, half of the cost of the units of the EVs are partly on batteries. And if we're going to be able to produce or process the mineral ores that we ship, that we export outside of the country, we will be able to pull through with additional costs, and it more sensible enough in using it in our market. Next slide, please. In terms of vehicle stock and models, according to LTO, we will have about more than 4,000 already of being registered e-vehicles, 3,000 of which are being got from the electric tricycles that are being deployed for the local government units as a program from the Asian Development Bank and Department of Energy in subsidizing this e-trikes, giving this to selected local government units. Next slide, please. To date, there were more than about 7 e-cars already available in the market, like Hyundai Ioniq, BYD, we have Kona, we have Dongfang, and then we have Jaguar I-Pace, Chery Arizo, and soon the Nissan Leaf. And in next slide, please. In terms of the hybrid vehicles, we also have the Ioniq and just recently launched Mitsubishi Outlander, and we have BYD and Volvo and BYD Ditang and Land Rover PHEV. Next slide, please. In terms of promoting the electric vehicles, government was able to launch the PUB modernization program, wherein in fact one of their they are very vocal on promoting the usage of electric jeepneys instead of this Euro 4 compliant jeeps. EVAP is also part of this modernization program in building the standards, helping out on the specifications and what are those that are the guidelines that has to be used in modification of a more adept and more precise for the commuters, weighing on the height and the stand and how it is being used. This public transport restriction during lockdown was just affected recently because of the IATF requirements that only at 50% can be accommodated for the commuters. So it was almost put on hold, but still continuously being used. And the PUB loan program was also a bit affected in terms of how can the fleet operators would be able to sustain and pay their amortization while they are only getting half of the collection. So even the local EVs producers were badly hit because the purchase orders were suspended, waiting for the operations to be normalized and waiting for the other cooperatives or fleet of corporations to establish to their own assigned routes. And with this PUB modernization program, there were two government banks who supported it in financing it, such as DBP and Land Bank. And we are clamoring for more commercial banks to deal with this so that this would be more affordable and better options for the fleet operators. Next slide, please. And as mentioned earlier, DOE completes distribution of 3,000 e-trikes with Asian Development Bank, wherein they may use it for distributed to the local government units, selected government units in Calabarzon area and others. And this is very useful in their operations, addressing concerns on their specifically on their frontliners and their administration usage. And also there are some like in Pasig, they were able to use it as for public students as well in using these units. Next slide, please. There is also another project wherein Pasig was able to get a grant from one manufacturer of 10 units, e-trike units as logistics, addressing the concerns on, together with the collaboration of United Nations Environment Program, a program wherein promoting on the logistics side of things on addressing this climate change. And they are now pulling through since. So this is one part that makes it more viable on using e-vehicles. Next slide, please. And then, as mentioned by Sir Ray, we are part of the technical committee under Senate Bill 1382 of Senator Gatchalian on the Electric Vehicles and Charging Stations Act, wherein we identified the roles of different government agencies. We were able to address the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives that are needed in the market and in the industry, and how to build the demand generation and the industry development infrastructures in particular to have continuous and supply chain and sustaining it for a better mode of transportation. Next slide, please. We are also part of building the draft or the draft administrative order of LTO under electric vehicle guidelines and regulations in terms of classifying it and its operations and how it is being demanded for the recording and the registration of each and every e-vehicles that is being used on the road. We have to classify which units or models that are very useful and limited to a certain areas that can be used of, and addressing the issues of recording. And somehow we would know of what would be the benefits if what would be the repercussions if there are some safety guidelines or there were some accidents that happen. Next slide, please. Well, in terms of these perspectives, as an EV and parts manufacturer, here are the perspectives that we were able to address with. There were few e-trikes and Egypt local manufacturers providing investments beyond the production to enable market adoption of the vehicles. We already provided the proof of concept in each and every location, in each and every local government units. And we have to push these local government units to elevate it to the next level. And with this, we were able to address smart and optimized designs and system. There's a stop and shop, and there is terminal stations at place, and they have a certain area of concern that they have to pass through, and limited to as such. We address those, but we were not yet being simply we feel that we are still taken for granted. We can go but anywhere. Where is the market and the financing support? These local manufacturers are asking for financing support, wherein hoping that commercial banks would be more open on letting the consumers buy the units from the local manufacturers and use it. And as of the moment, there are only a few, in fact, can be countable to our fingers of who were able to give financing assistance to such manufacturers. Local manufacturing incentives are needed to compete with the ICE and imported EVs. As of the moment, the only thing that we have gained is the excise tax. EVs are free from excise tax. And we are clamoring for more incentives for us to build, to reach its parity with the ICEs. And another is that our counter association collaborator, which is PNI, Philippine Nickel Industry Association, was able to talk with CIAP's PBA, our counterpart in China, and looking for ways on how they can build modular manufacturing the battery cells here. And so as they need to invest on battery cell manufacturing under the right policy, climate, and incentives and demands. So we're trying to build a roadmap first before we will able to push through on this collaboration. So as we could bring together these two association groups in offering it to the market, local market, I mean. Next slide, please. A couple of more progressive transport cooperatives have adopted EVs, but only after EV supplier provided financing support. So there are some queries. Why should I adopt? Do we have to save Mother Earth on building on using electric vehicles instead of an ICE fleet operations? Will it make more business sense? Actually, the thing is that if only the market would better understand the benefits of using the electric vehicles, not only on saving Mother Earth, not only on addressing concerns on the viability. Yes, as mentioned earlier, there are only few items that are, there are only few movable parts that has to be replaced in times of repairing. And it's more less costly than compared to an ICE. That thing is one thing that a fleet operator should consider. Another is the only thing that deals with is the upfront cost of the units. And after that upfront cost, they would not have to look into how is the cost of the diesel fluctuating from time to time, instead of them charging it to a power grid. If they have some solar panels that supported for the powers, that would be more better, and it would give them a better benefits. An e-trike costing 3 times a conventional tricycle should return 3 times the net revenue to be worth it. As mentioned, the cost of the e-vehicles is merely on batteries. And if we address producing the batteries locally, we would be able to see the beauty of how effective it was if you're going to buy an electric vehicle and an affordable battery supply. So what are opportunities and incentives? We are dealing with a more systematic way of approach on using on a fleet operations. AFCS, automated fare collection system, camera, CCTVs inside each and every e-vehicles for the safety of the commuters. More systematic, wherein they won't stop at any areas that the driver or the commuter would want to. There are specific areas that they have to stop. Those are the things that we have to look for. And another is that in spite of how these drivers on a personal usage would be able to plan their travel on a daily basis, like how many kilometers do you use it. The only thing that makes it more sensible enough to this inquiries on the EVs is what is the range distance of your car. And if you're going to make a plan, you would know of on how what is the capacity of your cars. So those are the things that we have to do, and you would have cost savings on your daily needs. Next slide, please. So only one active EV charging operator from a couple of years back. Actually, one speaker of ours later on, Sir Noel Soriano, our member of the association, is one of the private sector who was able to establish a charging station in their gas station. And I, for one, benefit from it because I'm using an EVs and I charge it for free. So if people would really know that if you can go to a certain gas station and charge your e-cars there for free, why not? But this one, until the regulations will be implemented, there should be a cost. But that's the difference. The nice thing about of having it, establish it first, and be an innovator on placing the charging pads, addressing that range distance anxiety of the users. What government support and incentives? That's why EVAP is working with technical committee, as technical committee of BPS under TC 89, under DTI, and we are technical advisor of Senate Bills 1382 and the House Bill of the in the Congress, so that we just need this approval to get the nod of the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives and feel the support of the government. Because for one, we already established a support to the government, and now we are looking for a more collaborative approach on hand-in-hand working with the market. Next slide, please. So we were able to identify 4 pillars to bring the EVs forward. And these were demand generation, EV cost, industry development, and charging infrastructure development, wherein we identify here the roles of different government sectors or departments who would help us in building the industry. Identified were Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, and the Department of DOST, and Department of Finance, so that we will be able to establish these 4 pillars and looking for a good opportunity with the industry and better energy security in terms of lowering the importation, in terms of a more vibrant local economy, addressing the lower greenhouse gas emissions, and a smarter and greener living. Stakeholders' perspective needs to be strongly considered in this policy development, and an integrated set of policies is needed to push EV forward. In identifying all these things, it would be a mile high on getting our things done and accept that EV is what we are looking forward to in establishing what Secretary De Guzman has mentioned, addressing the climate change. Next slide, please. Points to ponder. Demand is equals to electric vehicle ecosystem and investments. We are looking at other investors putting their money here because there's a big potential. I'm talking of more than 240,000 jeepneys that has to be replaced, and we're talking of more than 3 million tricycles that are plying the national road that has to be changed, and we're looking at more than private users who make use of very stylish cars. Now, as of the moment, there were about more than any high-end cars that are available in the market, and we are looking at this aspect that most people, Filipinos, can afford now. Policy, regulations, and incentives anchored on realities on the ground is equals to demand, and an integrated approach is needed. I think that ends my presentation. Is there another? Thank you very much, and hope you have a pleasant day.
Thank you, Mr. Edmund Araga, President of Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines. It's great to hear that we are making some progress in the EV space in the Philippines. So thank you for those insights. Our next speaker is the Vice President of Manufacturing and Communications of Unioil Petroleum Philippines. He also held several executive posts in Filipina Shell Petroleum Corporation, among other companies. Let's all welcome Mr. Noel Soriano.
He's on mute.
Yeah, Mr. Soriano, please unmute. You can unmute your mic, Mr. Noel Soriano. There.
Okay, good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction, Mr. Ray Lugtu. May I just check if can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Yes, perfect.
Okay. Anyway, I'd like to first thank you to the management and the team of Manila Times for inviting us to join this prestigious Going Green, Great for Business and Community online forum. We are very passionate about this topic. I would like to also to acknowledge Mr. Dante Ang, the President of Manila Times, Mr. Manny de Guzman, the Executive Director of Climate Change Commission, my good friend, Mr. Edmund Araga, the President of Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines. And by the way, congratulations on the successful 8th Philippine Electric Vehicle Summit held last September. Very successful event. Mr. Ed Sabitong, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council, and of course, our moderator for today, Mr. Lugtu. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to be here to represent Unioil. Against this renowned resource speakers, we are here to be humbled, and yet we are proud to provide some sharing, of a private enterprise, a fully Filipino-owned enterprise that through the years have really tried to make a name, and our contribution in the environment is something that we would like to share today. So if you don't mind, I will share my slides. All right. A little bit about Unioil. Unioil is the fourth biggest oil company in the Philippines. Unioil is already 54 years in the country, being founded in 1966. We bring to the market European grade Euro 5 fuels, something that is higher than the Philippine standard Euro 4. So we offer this for the same price or even sometimes marginally cheaper than our competitors, so that we would like to offer this to Filipinos to do their share in also going green, without having to spend more money. Unioil is continuously growing. Primarily, we are located in Luzon, but soon to be opening our doors to the markets of Visayas, Mindanao, hopefully before the end of the year. Why do the basic premise of how Unioil does its business is an advocacy on the environment. We feel very, very strongly about this. And this is actually predicated, the activities and the initiatives that we do are predicated on a belief that really climate change and the environmental hazards are real. These are not just invisible threats that is a figment of imagination. We know that it is here. It is here in a clear and present danger, and it's starting to be less invisible. We can see signs of environmental degradation, weather being more unpredictable and more disastrous to our lives. And we feel that it will take not just one company, not just one individual to turn it around. We need to band together, as private and government, to help one another to save our future. So we would like actually, as a Doing Our Part campaign, we enjoin our customers and the Filipino people to do their part now, not tomorrow, but now, and help us. And together, we hopefully can make a difference through our small everyday actions and decisions. As simple as choosing a cleaner fuel for our vehicles of today, and maybe considering an electric vehicle for your future. Euro 5 is something that we bring to the market. This is beyond the Philippine requirement of Euro 4. We believe that bringing European quality Euro 5 to our market is to make Filipinos know that the better fuel is investing in a better future. In 2016, UniOil, out of its own initiative, launched a network of more than 50 air quality monitoring stations in key cities nationwide. This is part of our advocacy in helping educate the Filipinos, to tell them that the risk of pollution is not an invisible and a remote threat. It is already in the shores of the Philippines. In 2015, the DENR, Environmental Management Bureau, released a study. Unbeknownst to many, the study says that to a limit of the 90 parts per million total particulate matter in the environment, NCR and Metro Manila is already at 120 parts per million levels. This is more than 30% exceeding World Health standards. And so our contribution is to make people see the scores. These are now available online, free for access to the public. This is our public service. People can see hourly readings in their key cities, how bad the air quality is. It is actually aligned with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, indicating a consumer-friendly way of telling you whether the air that you breathe and that your children are exposed to are healthy, when it's green, when it's moderate or unhealthy for sensitive groups, can trigger already, for example, asthma or lung problems. And when it is unhealthy, it already tells us that we might want to consider relocating our relatives or family members that are very sensitive. Please join us. Anybody who might be interested to join this network, it's not a business proposition. It is really a public advocacy. Join our network of providing free public service to this one. It's just like a weather report. How healthy would it be for people to know, to check every day, oh, I'm going to Davao, I'm going to Baguio. What is the, I'm going to Baguio, for example, or Tagaytay to have a rest and recreation. Is the weather, is the air in the area where we want to rest and recuperate healthy and clean? So this is a call to action, not just for the public, for the private, but also for the government to get alarmed when the rising levels of hazardous air is already starting to aggregate and accumulate in certain cities. Pollution is part of industrialization. Pollution comes when you have progress. Pollution comes when you consume more transportation. And so therefore, we have to be concerned that pollution will be coming and will be taking its toll on our health. Because of our launch of cleaner fuels, Euro 5 is 5 times cleaner, less sulfur, and our advocacy for air quality information. In 2017, Unioil was awarded as a clean air champion by one of our respected NGOs, the Clean Air Philippines. No? And we are thankful for this recognition, and this one inspires us to do something more for the environment. In 2017, we launched our first electric vehicle charging station in Quezon City. This made Unioil the first multi-energy service station in the Philippines. Multi-energy because we not only refuel liquid fuels, but now electric energy. In 2018, we opened our second electric vehicle charging station located in EDSA Guadalupe, Makati. We are now ready to receive and encourage and service electric vehicles that are Japanese, European, American. No? At just now, without waiting too much time, because it's now a fast charging station. No? Mr. Araga is somebody that has tested already and I think has benefited. And this is something, is again, a public service because we do not charge. No? We do not charge for recharging. No? This is our share to help encourage people to go into EV cars. Crazy, no? Some people say Unioil is crazy, no? Because electric vehicle and alternative energy are renewable energy. These are not fossil fuels. These are not petroleum-based. And they're saying that alternative energy is the single biggest threat to the profitability and future of the oil industry. It is actually an antithesis to our business. And yet, Unioil is the first to embrace it. Why? Because it's good for humanity, it's good for the environment. Instead of resisting it, let us be part of this change. It's a change, it's a step change for the good. It's not for our generation, it's for our children and our grandchildren. This is an investment to our future, to our sustainable business. Let's go with the change and be part of the change. Even our headquarters. We just finished our Unioil Tower. This is located in Ortigas. And we designed our building, the Esquadra Tower, with the environment in mind, with the health of its occupants in mind. It is pre-certified LEED Gold, and we are aspiring to improve further to go for LEED Platinum. Do you know that we're one of the few buildings in the country that actually has a fresh air exchange every 8.5 minutes? Unlike the old buildings, there is just chilled and recirculated old air. For us, especially now, it becomes more relevant when the COVID, you don't want to recirculate virus. And so therefore, this is one of the few buildings that assures you that every 8.5 minutes, air is exchanged with fresh air. We also try to collect rainwater, and we use rainwater for our toilets. It is the water supply that flushes down our toilets. It is one of the few buildings that we have also equipped electric vehicle charging units. No? It is EV ready. There are priority parking for occupants that actually bring in electric vehicles. Our part of encouraging the consumers to shift to electric vehicles. Our building is also equipped with double glazed glass panels. This is designed to reflect heat and to keep the internal temperature cool, resulting to less need for electricity for cooling. And of course, all the waste plastic and bottle segregation for recycling is something that was designed in mind when we built this tower. We encourage those that are green-minded, the business community. We just opened the tower. We just finished it in May. And those who would want to consider us as headquarters in Esquadra, please, you are welcome to check out our facility. Anyway, I guess let me end with sharing with you that we are doing our part to preserve the environment, and it is really investing in a sustainable future for our children and also our business. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Noel C. Soriano, Vice President, Manufacturing and Communications of Unioil Petroleum Philippines, Inc. After hearing the talks of Mr. Araga and Mr. Soriano, now I'm personally considering buying EV, especially after hearing that Unioil has this multi-energy service station. So it's great to know that. Now our next speaker is a graduate and licensed civil engineer from Mapua Institute of Technology. He has more than 35 years of construction, project management, and real estate related experience both here and abroad. His 12 years of international experience spanned the various projects he did in the Middle East at the biggest oil company in the world, Saudi Aramco, and in Trinidad, West Indies, where he managed the biggest project in the Caribbean area. His local accomplishments also involved the biggest projects such as the 5-tower Rockwell West condominium buildings, where he worked with DM Consuni. He also participated as special lecturer for the Construction Manpower Development Foundation, doing various modules in project management to both public and private sectors. Let's all welcome our next speaker, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Vice President of the Technical Services Department, Chief Sustainability Officer of Artalan Corporation, Mr. Edgar Sabido.
Good morning to everyone. It's always a pleasure to be able to take part in endeavors such as this. I thank Manila Times for the opportunity. Likewise, I'd like to say first, thank you to Ray and also to our Honorable Secretary de Guzman, to my co-speakers, Edmund and Noel. I think the sequence is perfect because after talking about climate change, and then moving on to transportation on electric vehicles, Noel spoke about the industry in terms of how the oil business comes to the fore. So I'm left with a bigger contributor to global warming, which is buildings. I'd like to share with you my presentation. I hope this works well. Can you see on the screen?
Yes, we can see.
Let me just, right. I guess let me go back from the beginning because I was trying to test my time. Okay. So thank you. Going green, great for business and the community. I have an outline basically to talk about the real threat on climate change. The questions that are posed normally when we design green. What are the challenges of building green? How do we sell? This is the business part, and then why it's important also for the community and for our future. No discussions on green building is ever complete without touching the topic on climate change. The harsh reality is really around us. We've had prolonged drought, bushfires, unprecedented tropical storms, sea level rise, melting of iceberg. And just recently, we were reminded of this super typhoon Rolly that devastated the Bicol region. Who can forget Yolanda and Ondoy? And up north, Peping and Sendong. I mean, these types of tropical storms are unprecedented. The strength, if you remember, we've never had this. The iceberg melting, creating sea level rise. If you think about all of these things, can we do something as individuals? Is there a way for us to be able to combat climate change? So we look at the main contributors. As I did mention in the beginning, we talked about climate change, but when we try to dissect its real cause, it's coming from the industry, roughly around 30%, coming from transportation, another 30%. These are averages. And then the bigger chunk is taken by buildings, 40%. So I did this small study. Hong Kong with 1,100 square meters has about 9,000 high-rise buildings. This 20 stories and above. Singapore, that was about 560 square, expanding to 725 square because of reclamation. That's about 8,600 high-rise buildings. Manila, we have a land mass of 619 square meters. I don't have the data, but if we say 2,000, we're not as dense as our Asian neighbors, but then it's still the same. What can one green building do? Of course, not much, we say. But one green building can inspire another and build on another and multiply. Hopefully, it can gather public support, make the local government follow, and then our community can go green, and then the environment can be better. A green building features energy and water efficiency, use of green materials, it manages its waste and control emission, takes care of transportation, land use and ecology, and it manages the building. For the Verde rating system, it even takes on culture and heritage preservation. I'd like to zero in on indoor air quality because this is relevant to our pandemic times nowadays. A green building has visual comfort, thermal comfort, good indoor air quality for tenants and dwellers. It has microbial contamination prevention and green materials for cleaning. So the Artaland way of designing green building takes a lot of time, effort, dedication, selection of consultants and contractors. There's a bit of an expertise that are needed. We're a bit fortunate with Artaland that we're able to start the company developing nothing but green and sustainable buildings. We started with Aria Residences. We were totally unknown at the time, 11, 12 years ago. And then we moved on to build ACPT, or the Artaland Century Pacific Tower in BGC. Currently, we're wrapping up phase 1 of the Cebu Exchange at IT Park. We're also doing the Savia Financial in Arca South, and then our Sedina Park community developments in Laguna. So our buildings are not only rated or certified, but we're working to make them quadruple certified under the LEED rating system, the local Verde rating system of the Philippine Green Building Council, the EDS, Excellence in Design for Greener Efficiencies, and of course, with the pandemic now, the WELL certification for the health and wellness of the tenants of the buildings. There are a lot of challenges in building green. Starting with construction, you need to have your indoor air quality, your erosion sedimentation control, and construction waste. So we teach people and the workers proper segregation of waste, selections of materials for reuse and recycling. We use pavers or from excess concrete, and even if you take note of the photo, even our Christmas parties are utilizing recycled materials, so people will get appreciation that there's really, not everything should be dumped in the landfill. So we teach them proper segregation of their waste. To be able to sell green on the business part, you need a lot of spreading of the green awareness. Starting as an unknown developer, people were not aware fully what green building is. There are a lot of expectations and perceptions about green, if it's painted green, if it's full of landscaping. So we need to educate them. We educate our sellers, we educate the clients, because their behavior and expectations should also be studied. Actual data helps. For example, our green building, where we have tenants that used to pay 20, 30,000 pesos on electricity bill, are amazed that they only pay more than half or less than half. So it's one of those benefits. And of course, the water bill is likewise reduced significantly. To sell green, there's also the use of technology, like your audio-visual presentations, and we do have virtual realities in our galleries. You also need to strengthen on the adaptability of the building to the present new normal. During the pandemic, we were able to convert portions of our green building into an immediate facility for our housekeeping, our maintenance, our security, because we do have the facility within. And the most important thing is that we sell green building for the future of our children. So I thank Noel for also mentioning that this is not just about the present, but more of thinking about the future of our children. So we do spread a lot of this green building awareness. We do talks, we do trainings, we educate workers, we go to schools, symposium, as well as private companies to help them be more aware of what green building does. The features of a green building can both be considered as a premium, but likewise can be reduced by way of passive elements of design. Proper orientation of the building, selection of the materials, collection of water from the rain, good air circulation, double glazing, as was mentioned as well, and other features that are more adaptive to the new normal. By providing garden, you have spaces for people to unwind, to relax, take care of their mental health. We have contactless fixtures for hygiene, lighting sensors that does not allow, of course, the light to come in when there is sufficient ambient lighting, a good ventilation, and contactless entry cards. The business part of it is that it sells well. Our buildings, our office buildings command higher rate in terms of the rentals, and our residential is even more amazing because I'll be specific of an example. What sold like 30 million 6 years ago can command a price even higher than 50 million now. So you can think of it really as a true investment in a sense, in a business sense. A green building also features not just good indoor air. I often describe this as maaliwalas because this is the one Tagalog word that has no one English equivalent word. And to adapt with the pandemic, we have converted as well portions of our deck areas into land, not just landscape, but also vegetable garden, which we termed as our potager garden. In Cebu, when I did one, the people that we locked in during the pandemic were able to make use of the vegetables that were planted there and use it for their cooking. It has low maintenance and operating costs. The lobbies and the common areas, you know, because we use LED lighting and because we have sufficient double glazed high windows, we're able to save a lot in terms of our electricity and operating costs. We're pushing for green because in times of pandemic, we're able to make the equation between what a green building has in terms of respect for the environment. If we remember how the pandemic started, whether this is strongly proven by scientists or not, when we disrupt our ecology, of course, the microorganisms that live within the animal, they get displaced. They come down to the communities, they get eaten, and then the virus starts to spread. So it's important for us to understand a green building respects ecology. It minimizes the use of wood. It discourages deforestation. It is energy and water efficient. It saves a significant amount of water. and it values the high standards of health, hygiene, and good indoor air quality. A green building likewise features that are easily transformed to health and safety facilities in case of a pandemic. We at the Green Building Council do a lot of these awareness spread trainings, collaborations. What we dream about is that we get our local government units as well to mandate that all buildings will be turned green. In fact, Artaland, we signed up on the climate group, becoming the first country in Southeast Asia to be able to commit that all the buildings that we will develop will be net zero by 2030, moving forward to help the environment achieve the 1.5 degrees centigrade control of temperature by 2050. So we do a lot of talks. We use AVRs for the guest virtual realities. We talk to symposium. We talk to mayors, especially when we were in Cebu, which we still are, to convince the local heads and LGU Office of Building Officials to be able to mandate, if not now, in the near future, that all buildings will be turned green. I take the best example of Mandaue in Cebu, because it's already mandated, so all buildings are turning to be green. You also sell the design, the quality, and the comfort of a green building. It's not only that it's green, but also it has to be comfortable. The little things that we do for the environment, for the earth. We make pledges, we ask them for their commitment to reduce, reuse, and recycle, and we engage little children in helping spread community engagement through posters, through little trivia boards, to the things that we do to help engage our communities. Wherever we have projects, we engage the communities to make them better understand what a green building can bring about. The multiplier effect, we start with the children. The children are amazing. They're the future. They represent who we will become and what we will turn over to them. The environment that we enjoy now is the environment, hopefully, that we will also enjoy in the future. The workers are given emphasis because each of the worker, when you ask them, how many are you in the family? They're normally big. Construction workers are very productive. They have 9 children, 8, 7. Some of them would even tell, I have 15. So when you tell them, you multiply the knowledge that you spread to as many. So the engagement on children can be heartwarming. They're so engaged, they appreciate and understand that this is all for them, for their future. Simple commitment, our chairman, Jaime Gonzalez, has committed that all of our developments at Artaland will be made green. All our staff, hopefully, will be able to understand. Our future is represented by our children. We sell green for them. We have to think not just of the premium in terms of cost, but how this will impact the kind of environment that they will have in the future. So we used to say that our environment does not need us. We need our environment. But now things have changed. Our environment needs our help. If you realize that a small act can make a whole lot of a difference, thank you and have a pleasant day.
Thank you, Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Vice President at Artaland Corporation. Now it's time for the Q&A. So those watching us in Facebook, you can type in your questions, and we will read and choose those questions. So I'd like to invite the speakers, turn on your microphones, and we have a few questions here. We can start with a question for Mr. Araga. So there's a question here. Can you talk about the tax incentives that EVAP is asking from Congress? Thailand just adopted tax incentives for e-vehicles there. So, Mr. Araga?
Okay, thank you, Sir Ray. Very good question. In terms of lobbying the incentives on the fiscal incentives, one was in terms of the manufacturing side, we all know of that there is already an IPP or investment priorities plan of BOI that has to be integrated with this incentives of the Senate bill in order to pursue with the Executive Order number 226 and also known as the Omnibus Investment Code of 1987, wherein it addresses on local manufacturing of the electric vehicles. And another thing that we are vocal about is the importation on the a complete built unit of EVs in terms of a 9 years timeline to be exempted on not only on the excise tax but on duties and VAT or value added tax. So in this type of tax incentives, we would be able to establish the needs or the availments of these consumers on buying the electric vehicles. And another is in terms of utilization. So exemption of VAT and charging equipments pagka nag-import sila and then in purchasing it, and then a 30% discount on the motor vehicle users charge imposed by local land transportation office under Republic Act 8794 or otherwise known as Motor Vehicle Users Charge Act in registering the vehicles. That's the incentives that we are eyeing at so that we would be able to pull through with the industry.
All right, great insights. Another question here, no? And probably see Mr. Edmund and Mr. Noel can answer this. No? Can you talk about the battery for electric vehicles? Are they still using lithium batteries? No? What alternatives battery technologies are coming soon? And for Mr. Soriano, electric charging stations look interesting indeed. How did the pandemic affect Unioil and its green innovations like e-charging? So let's start first with the battery, Mr. Edmund.
Yes, sir. Actually, we started off with our local supply, wherein we make use of lead acid batteries. Wherein one of our members, Motolite or Philippine Oriental Batteries, who is producing it, was able to start it up. But since we see the need of a better mileage on using the lithium ion, so that's why more users are more inclined into lithium ion. And there are another set of batteries that is in store in the future, like combining, instead of using a cobalt, they're making another set of chemicals that is looking into on that perspective because of the supply chain, wherein cobalt is more somehow dangerous as they expect it explodes on issues on security. That's why batteries they're looking at in development of a more inclined lithium ion supplies. The combination of the lithium parts that they can build up, and it is in the form of a modular. So these packages of the batteries are being built specifically in other countries. Is more adept on the specifications of the vehicle. For now, what we are using is a very small capacity of battery because most of the Egypts and e-trikes are of small specifications. Unlike on the e-cars, that has to be more bigger capacity on that approach.
All right. So lithium ion batteries still. Thank you, Mr. Edmond. How about Mr. Noel? No? So there's a question here. No? So the Unioil electric charging stations look interesting indeed. How did the pandemic affect Unioil and its green innovations like e-charging stations and other similar initiatives?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the question. I think the COVID pandemic hit us badly. No, just like I guess everybody in terms of personal and business, we were adversely affected. No, we were part of that critical industry where the government allowed us to continue operating to provide energy. No. For ambulances, police, no, the public service sector, no. So we continued operating. At the moment, we're probably back somewhere in the range of about 70-80%. We're not yet fully back because, of course, people are still hesitant to travel, no. And yet we are doing fine. In terms of the EV, it's always been operating. We never turned it off. We still encourage people to use it. So wala naman no change naman on that one. Of course, customers that bring their EV lessened also, no. But again, we do not draw income out of it. It is our public service. So I guess it's really just the lifestyle of people now have changed a bit, no. So. Thank you for asking, and we're surviving and trying to do our best to improve our services.
Right, great to hear. To Mr. Edgar, how does the cost of green buildings compare to the traditional construction? Is there a business case for green buildings?
Actually, much as we want to be able to derive an exact or at least an average. I think the limitation in terms of the number of green building here in the Philippines is yet to really be defined. But we'd like to say that it should range somewhere between 8 to 12%. In fact, it's the reason why some developers shy away because they always think of it as a number. And I know I sat down with an executive one time and he said that, if I'm going to do 10 buildings multiplied by that kind of a cost premium, that will be significant for my profit. And that's probably the reason why they shy away from it. But this premium, based on our experience, can easily be offset if you know how to work more efficiently. And I guess more importantly, when you think about what the benefit of that building will bring. So we are less focusing on it as a number or a hard number in terms of cost premium, but rather as something that can be recovered, but more importantly, will be served for the future of our children.
All right, thank you. Back to Mr. Noel. So, your corporate headquarters building is an interesting concept. It's a live green building. So, what returns do you get? Do you derive? How's the return to your company?
Ray, wala pa. No? We just finished construction and opened it in May. So we are just occupying 2 floors out of the 40-floor stories. No, wala pa. We are still inviting tenants, no? Those who are really looking for a better working environment. So really, payback or at this time is not yet felt. No, at this time.
All right.
Early back.
Okay, all right. Another question to you, Mr. Noel. So, what is UniOil's outlook on fuel prices? How has government tax reforms affected UniOil and the industry, like the excise tax and fuel marking?
Well, we support the government, in terms of the initiatives that they take, to level the playing field. When I say level the playing field, it is really implementing measures to curb the illegal importation. Because the illegal importation, it does not only reduce the funding of badly needed taxes to finance social services in the country, but also sometimes introduce bad quality fuel, that may damage vehicles and pollute the environment. Really, the excise taxes that were implemented is especially during the COVID. There was a special 10% levy or excise additional tax that was imposed by the government, it was hardly felt by the public because it was the time also where global prices of petroleum really went very, very low. No? But I guess coupled with the low demand, it was not really felt by the public. Right now, it is finished. We don't know whether Bayanihan 2, whether the government will implement a second round of fundraising for the government's coffers, no, to finance the COVID. The global price outlook right now is pretty stable, no? Pretty stable. We do not see a very large forecast of price increases, no? Because together with dampened demand, no, medyo soft demand, there is also a growing oversupply in the international market with new refineries coming up and introducing even more quantities of supply. So the law of supply demand, we see prices to be at least, manageable, stable, still fluctuating because, in the country we are a net importer. So we just wait for the forex impact to our importation and of course the selling prices. But more or less, it's pretty much stable.
Okay, great insights on the energy sector. Let's move to the construction industry, Mr. Edgar. So how is the construction industry coping with the pandemic? Is recovery in progress? And what incentives can government offer so that more in our industry adopts green practices?
Well, I'd like to echo what Noel mentioned. Everybody is affected. We all are. It was how, I guess, the manner that we're responding to the pandemic. For example, we have an active building, our Cebu Exchange. It's the biggest certified green building in the country right now. And it's not easy to be able to do that. We're all in Manila, we're locked, we're working from home, and yet construction has to continue. So it was really very challenging. You're unable to go there to get the feel of what it is. But we shouldn't stop because we have commitments that we have made, to our stakeholders. And that we did. We moved on. We did a lot in terms of our internal processes while maintaining very stringent protocol measures to protect people. If you have like 1,000 men inside a site, it's not easy to be able to make sure that they're all healthy, that they're all safe, that they're, while locked inside, they're also comfortable and they're kept safe and medically checked regularly. So having done that, we're able to proceed with our construction. In fact, people are amazed that we're able to top off the building during these pandemic times, and we're able to start handing over on the commitment that we've made to our stakeholders. And it's currently ongoing. I'm not sure about the other construction, but that's how we did it. We continued. We made sure that our commitments were done. I guess it all boils down to making everybody understand that we're all challenged by the pandemic and that we all need to work hard, if not double, so that we can keep the pace. On the second question as to what the government is doing in terms of incentivizing green building, this is what we in the council as Philippine Green Building Council is doing, hoping to approach our local government units to be able to get them into the fold, to help them also better understand. So it works both ways. We do a lot of assistance, providing them with the technical knowledge and skills to be able to develop our existing BERDE rating system is already there to warrant third-party certification for the building. I'm also looking forward to maybe approaching Noel in the future to also consider our local rating system for his new building. And this is the one thing that we hope, that we look forward to. Mandawi, as a classic case, is an LGU that was able to successfully implement the rating system by giving incentives such as maybe increased FAR, tax rebate, and opportunities as well for tenants of the building to better appreciate what green building does for the country, for the community. So we look forward to, right now, the major step that was taken by the government was to declare September 8th as the National Green Building Day by our President Duterte. That in itself is a step closer to achieving government support, hopefully in the near future, for our buildings to be greener.
Right, right. Interesting. Okay, so another one question to Mr. Araga. So, Mr. Edmund, can you talk about the supply chain for vehicle parts in the Philippines? How do we compare with the other ASEAN countries, particularly Thailand?
Okay. If we're going to make a comparison with Thailand, for now we made it more simpler in terms of using e-jeeps and e-trikes, right? So we address on the public transportation and using all the necessary parts that is available to the market in the in nearby auto supply to make use of replacing the parts. Okay, but in terms of building it, we have some parts that are being imported, and there are some parts that is being fabricated here locally. The only thing that makes it more costly is the importation of the major parts, specifically motor, controllers, and the battery. And with this, what we are looking at is the advent of implementation or investing on the battery manufacturing. So that would make a difference on having it on the ground. Meaning to say, if we address this battery anxiety that we have right now, and we can spread it all through the nations, we can use it. I'll give you an example, sir. One effective area is in Boracay. The Boracay is using 500 e-trikes, and they're using the battery on lithium-ion battery on a battery swapping system. So the operations are continuous and sustainable in having this by replacing the fully utilized battery into a new one or into new charged battery. So it makes sense on continuously using it. And in terms of the supply side, there are a lot of manufacturers that are local manufacturers specifically on the automotive and the motorcycle that were affected. Mainly because there are a lot of automotive supplies that used to be localized were phased out already. And how can we sustain these local manufacturers? You have to give them chance or to give an opportunity on looking at a more simpler supply side of things on the EVs. That's how we want to address it.
All right, interesting. Another question to you, and next is to Mr. Noel. Edmund, I'm seriously considering an EV now. No? So, what's the true benefit to me as a consumer? No, I'm interested also with the multi-energy service station of Noel. No? So, as a consumer, no, what is the true benefit, no? Apart from saving the environment? No?
Okay, sir. I'm using right now an e-vehicle, Mitsubishi Outlander. And I've used it in charging for free at Makati charging station and at the building of Mr. Soriano, who is very, very generous in terms of there were more than 4 charging pods on their buildings for the tenants. Okay. The nice thing about using of e-vehicles, like for you, sir, can I ask, how many kilometers do you drive daily?
Well, during this time of pandemic, none.
No. But before, I just want to know.
Before, it's safely 10 kilometers average, 10, 20 daily.
10 to 20 kilometers, okay. And if you're going to make use of an electric vehicle, you would not consume the most part of the one that you charge with on the 10 to 20 kilometers. You can use your car for more than a week or two. Am I right, sir? If
Yes.
the range distance of the EVs is more than 100 to 300 kilometers, meaning to say, if you're going to use it at 10 kilometers per day in a month, kung yun lang ang biyahe mo, in 1 month, saka ka pa lang ulit mag-charge.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, then that's the next question to you is, how many kilometers did your car consume as against on my 11 peso per kilowatt per hour?
Wow. All right. Oh.
So in that segment, we were able to save on our expenses.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, that
Right?
makes perfect.
So
Case.
did I convince you that much on
Yes, I'm
buying
convinced.
EVs?
I'm convinced. So I want to hear from Mr. Noel naman, no? So Noel, no, yung EV charging, no? Well, now it's free, no? But eventually, no, I suppose you will charge, no? Right. So is there a case, no, long term for owning an EV, no, when in the future, no, probably you will charge?
Siguro in the future, let's see how it goes. As of now, really, there are still infrastructure and regulatory issues, no, for those who would want to go into an EV charging network, no. So together with Mr. Araga, we are, pushing the advocacy for the government to make it easier for businesses to adopt, no. Not just for the public to buy EVs, but for the EV charging providers like us, to make it easier. Right now, really, the issues that are there are one, infrastructure. If you talk about fast charging, you will need more than 220 volts or 240 volts, no, that Meralco provides. So a person or a business who intends to go into EV charging network will have to consider that the current electricity supply is not matched with the technology and the service that you want. So there is additional capex, no, for step-up transformers, and the cost really, multiplies. The second one is regulatory. Right now, if you, roughly understand that the ERC regulates, the Energy Regulatory Commission regulates the sale of electricity limited to a franchise granted in an area to basically a monopoly in an area. Like for example, in NCR, it's Meralco, diba, who is the sole supplier of electricity, and in provinces, these are cooperatives, power cooperatives. So transitioning from that mindset to retailers of electricity needs to be, I think, clarified, fleshed out, no, to espouse, faster adoption from the infrastructure side, no, from those that are going into service providers, no, that will serve the market. No? So I guess sa ngayon, that's why we are not also charging, because there is that lack of clarity on how we will go about charging customers. So we still jump forward, no, because we know it is good. And we want to do our share. Siguro parang sponsor na muna ng Uni Oil yan. Sige lang, no? We want to get people really into the bandwagon. Hindi tayo mabilang at this point. We really know it's good for the future. It's good for us. So think about it in the future. Syempre, like what you're maybe in your minds, nothing is free in this world. Yes, but I guess power that is generated on wholesale is in the future still going to be cheaper than fossil fuels, no. So I guess in the future, it's still on the side of the consumers to really consider an alternative renewable energy. No?
Sir Ray, may I add?
Yes, sure.
Actually, the one thing that you have to take into consider, all of the cars being offered in the market has its own charger. Okay. Yes. All they have to do is plug it into their 220 because it has its own capability to charge it at their place. And in any other parts of the country, ang common talaga nila mag-charge is at their house after their daily work or so. So the cost of using the EVs are based on the home-based person na nandun na sa bahay yan. You would charge it only if you make it on a longer range. Make it, or you travel it more than 300 kilometers. That's the thing. And you won't use it in that much if you're just in the city area.
Okay, with that, now we close this insightful event. Thank you to our speakers. So, Mr. Edmund Araga, President of the EVAP, Mr. Noel Soriano of Unioil Petroleum Philippines, and Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Vice President of Artelan Corporation. It has been really insightful. So after this event, EV truly has a promise as well as green buildings. Not only we will contribute to saving our planet, it also makes sense for companies and even individuals to adopt green. So thank you everyone for listening, and
My pleasure, sir.
thank you everyone. So and we end this program, and thank you to our sponsors.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
A new day means new choices. Get up or snooze. Go solo or pool. Turn them on or switch them off. Go with the trend or use a classic. Move ahead or take a step back. Use products that may affect the environment or help rebuild it. Decisions like these all have consequences. And we have the power to decide. We at Unioil know the value of our choices. Even in the tiniest possible way. Making the world a safer place to play in. A greener place to drive in. And a better place to live in. By providing better and cleaner fuels and utilizing renewable and sustainable energy. See? When we do small and meaningful acts for the planet, we help in rebuilding it. We help in keeping it. The road to the future might be uncertain, but we think we got a good head start. So come take this journey with Unioil. Together, we can begin by doing our care, doing our share. It may be a little, but it's a start. Unioil, doing our part.